Dan Crenshaw gets a lot of clickbait because people like to take down heroes. They're like, we loved this guy. He's so good at destroying the left. Like, we loved him, but we also love to hate people that we love, don't we? And that's an unfortunate reality on the right. It's a cultural issue, but we have a name for it. We call it rhino hunting.
As you guys know, I was recently on the Anti-Hero podcast, and I was rocking this tank top. I've been getting hit up nonstop with messages to release this tank top for sale. So your prayers have been answered. I went and go ahead and released it. You can buy this online right now. It's wanted Dan Crenshaw in suspicion of insider trading, double-crossing, being a career politician, and all-out scumbag. Despite what Dan thinks, I think there's a lot of people out there who cannot stand him for obvious reasons. So if you want to show your lack of support for him, go ahead and get one of these tank tops. This is how we stop these career scumbag politicians from getting voted into office time and time again.
This level of meme or social justice and humor, I would say, from a war veteran, certified badass Eddie Gallagher, has essentially destroyed Dan Crenshaw just by wearing this shirt alone. There's a lot of deep history that goes into this, and it's been a while since I made a video about Eddie and this situation because it's gone back several years, but it started making me uncover certain things, and I just want to let you guys know that, like, this goes all the way back to 2019.
This is not about me. I'm not trying to get into a petty little back and forth match with this person. This is about you, the American people, no matter what side of the aisle that you sit on. This is also, and most importantly to me, about my teammates in the SEAL teams. I feel like you guys should know the truth as well. So back in 2019, I was charged with war crimes, premeditated murder, and I was facing life in prison without parole. I sat in pretrial confinement for about 9 months before my actual trial. During that time, my wife Andrea and brother Sean, along with a certain group of teammates that I had, were doing everything they could to garner support, to get the truth out about what was going on with me, to expose all the lies and corruption around the UCMJ and everything they were doing to put me away for life. During that time, one name kept popping up. That was Dan Crenshaw. My brother wanted to go speak to him to try and get his support, as well as my teammates who were doing everything they could. And this was for obvious reasons. Dan was a prior SEAL. They thought that this was a no-brainer and that he should get behind it, especially with all the information that was coming out. So my brother ended up talking to his staff a couple times. They gave him the runaround, but that did not stop him. He kept going back day after day and finally got a hold of Dan. Dan told him he wanted to wait till the situation developed before he made a decision, which, got it, that makes sense. Along with that, some of my teammates who were on that deployment, who were on the ground the day of the incident, went to one of Crenshaw's fundraising parties, pulled him aside and spoke to him face to face, told him what was happening to me was complete BS, that it was chock full of lies, and that I was getting screwed over. Dan told them he'll see what he can do. Once my brother got a hold of Dan, he said, once my brother got a hold of him a second time, Dan said that there wasn't enough information or whatever. My brother got pretty frustrated and ended up sending Dan a semi-scathing email, calling him out for being a politician and not being part of the Brotherhood and not supporting a fellow SEAL. Dan replied to him and said that he would see what he could do. So, as my incarceration went on, and it was late into my incarceration when 50 congressmen ended up signing a petition to release me from prison so I could properly defend myself before trial. They basically were saying, give this man the constitutional rights he deserves before he goes to trial for his life. One congressman would not sign that petition. That was Dan Crenshaw. Instead, he decided to write his own petition and pretty much say to keep me in prison, but just to let me see my lawyers, which were rights I should have already had in the first place. At that point, we decided to scrap asking Dan for help and just move on. No harm, no foul. So obviously, I went to trial, was found not guilty, and ended up retiring out of the Navy. Not long after I retired, I got invited to a Turning Point event by Nine Line. While at that event, I just happened to run into Dan Crenshaw. I saw him coming down the hallway, and I wanted to go up and talk to him just to get his thoughts on the whole situation and why he did not support me or why he made up his own petition saying to keep me in prison. I was not angry. I just wanted to talk to him, team guy to team guy, to get his thoughts. He saw me from down the hall and immediately looked down at the ground and speed walked right past me. Didn't even give me the time of day. So at that point, I was like, all right, he's a politician. I can kind of understand why he didn't want to support if it would hurt him in some capacity. So I just let it go. Not too long after that, I obviously wrote the book. And when the book came out, I went to Congress to do a book signing for the 50 congressmen who did support me, who did sign that petition to get me out of prison. While there, I was pulled aside by multiple congressmen and was told that Dan Crenshaw was actively working against me behind the scenes. He was going up to each of those congressmen who were supporting me, telling them not to support me, that I was guilty, and that it was his community and they needed to butt out and let him handle it. I don't know how much of an arrogant statement that can be made that Dan said it's his community. That's a joke. But regardless, after hearing this, I was pretty disgusted. It's one thing to not support me and just to back off and not do anything. But Dan, knowing the full well the truth about what was really going on, still went and tried to get people not to support me and pretty much try and put me away for life without parole. The way I look at that is Dan was trying to kill me. He was doing this for political favor. He was doing this to climb the political ladder.
So as you can see, that is the basic synopsis of why Eddie Gallagher was like, hey, dude, we're part of the same team. You fought in the same war I have. You understand what enemy we were up against to be charged with war crimes. And then I would say to then have Eddie Gallagher get off, which, by the way, if you guys did not know, other people were on the SEAL team that had immunity from any bad, ramifications of this, then went on the stand and said, I did it. They said, I did it, and it got Eddie off. That was it. And you would think, I understand politicians are going to politic, but I'll say there is a point where you should be stepping in at some point, and it looks like they were trying to make something happen. But at least in the aftermath of that, try and rectify the situation. Say, I felt like I didn't have enough information, whatever, I'm here to support you. People can understand that. But he has been radio silent to Eddie Gallagher this entire time. And that's because he was on the Anti-Hero podcast, Eddie Gallagher was, when he wore that. But then also they were able to somehow call Dan Crenshaw. And I believe this clip deserved a lot more views. But they essentially backed him into a corner and were like, you can't not do this and try and settle this with Eddie.
So you would be down to sit down and have a conversation with him?
About what? Like, why? I don't know. Why? I mean, I don't really see the point.
I don't know, like, why? Like, that is the like, quintessential, like, teenage girl, like, I don't even care. I don't even care. Like, like, the voice, it's annoying. It's annoying. It's like immediately didn't even know how to, gain traction and why he didn't want to talk to Eddie.
I mean, it's just a yes or no. If you want to or don't want to, it's fine.
I mean, if you want to
I mean, slandering me publicly for years is not a good premise for me to sit down with you. It's like, for me, this has been over and done with for so long.
Yeah.
Like it's just, it's silly and pointless.
Slandering you for years, I'll say this. He still has a reputation. Unfortunately, we live in a world where there is the court of public opinion and then there's actual court. Fortunately, and very fortunately, Eddie Gallagher is off of that side of the aisle. However, Eddie Gallagher will still always have a tinge painted to his name. No matter how much freedom somebody has, there will be somebody that does not believe he should be walking free or whatever else. And fortunately, we have a justice system that does give the people their day in court. But to sit here and say like, oh, just badgering me all these years. I'm sorry. When someone's fighting for their life and their brother's going to Congress and knocking on every door they can, including yours, which should have been the easiest door to knock on, it just seems kind of bad, right? Like if you even just listened, that would have probably made more sense. They probably wouldn't be going as hard as they are right now after you, Dan.
Going. So I was like, all right. Told my staff, I'm like, get every email that we get, every interaction we had with them. Let's do a timeline.
Why wouldn't you want to sit down with the actual person and talk to the actual person that is saying these things instead of hiding behind it? It's not clickbait. Why not private? Do it privately.
Important things to do.
I mean, you say you're clickbait. You say you're clickbait.
I have a job that's way more important than sitting down with Eddie Gallagher.
But you guys were SEALs. You guys were in the same war in the same fight. So why wouldn't you want
to? New thing in my life. This is not a big thing in my life.
He has a job that's more important than sitting down with Eddie Gallagher, which had one of the most important cases, I would say, ever in recent history, as far as war crimes goes, or Navy SEALs, or any of that stuff, because we hadn't really seen the aftermath of a lot of these actions for years and years of people having to deal with this, especially in close armed conflicts, inner city stuff, things like that, winning hearts and minds and the feel goods of people trying to rebuild a country while still trying to be a certified killer, essentially, right? Like that's what you are. You're a warrior if you are in the military. So you are meant to go do the thing of elimination. But to sit here and say like Eddie Gallagher is beneath him, I think is really telling. He's somehow on this podcast, even on a phone call. The time he spent for this, he could have spent on the Eddie Gallagher thing. And it shows you he is more willing to somehow behind closed doors, in my opinion, probably covering his own behind because there was something that was there. Why would somebody say, we need to defend ourselves from whatever Eddie Gallagher is going to say? I need every email, every text, every letter. I need everything to defend myself like an iron dome. What does that tell you? What is that? Like, that has to give you what? Like, we're just asking a conversation about why you didn't support. What is there going on behind closed doors that people were supporting or not supporting? It tells you that Eddie's case was definitely a political factor. It was not apolitical, no matter how much the military wants to show it being apolitical. And on top of that, that was shown even when, then at the time of his first term, President Trump had actually removed the awards of the lawyers, the JAGs, that lost that case in the prosecution side of it. So
this is like two guys walking around.
This is the first time I've even talked about it.
This is like two guys walking around an office that completely hate each other, that refuse to talk to each other, and it causes a toxic environment within everything. And this is obviously eating up the press. People are talking about it, and I don't understand what you guys what you guys both did. Why you wouldn't just face him and sit down and be like, dude, this isn't what happened. Let me tell you face to face what happened. Like,
he's never asked.
It's false. That is false, because Eddie has said his brother went to Congress to try and get people to advocate for Eddie, to try and figure out how to not set him up into the worst situation of his life, talking about other issues of pretrial confinement for flight risk and things like that, where he wasn't getting his rights during that entire process. And that was factual evidence that people have testified. The one thing that's really weird about this is what you've seen is, and you'll see this whether it be social media or whatever groups, cliques there are, a lot of people will try and climb the rope to the next level. And once they hit a certain threshold, they don't ever go back down. They are so scared to go back down that essentially that means they could lose notoriety, respect, whatever, if they handle things lower levels. They're always looking up. They can never look down. And unfortunately, I would say those are principles that Navy SEALs don't really go by, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're enlisted or officer or whatever, like, it is known you're a team. And so to have these divides or these instances where Dan Crenshaw has essentially said, like, I don't know David Goggins. Who is that? Like, I don't know, one of the other top 3 to 5 Navy SEALs that have any notoriety. Like, you probably know this person. But I am amused by Eddie's entire thing of making this t-shirt. I will be ready to see the news of Dan Crenshaw now filing some kind of lawsuit against Eddie Gallagher for making this shirt. To let you guys know, he is selling them for $30 for a regular t-shirt and $26 for a tank top. So I guess you can get them while they're hot. I'm not plugging in like a sponsorship or anything. I just thought that was funny. But let me know what you think about this Dan Crenshaw and Eddie Gallagher situation.